It's 5th of October 25, and I'm just talking about Labour's Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood, who's only been there for 2 weeks or something. She's already done quite a lot of big things, though, but she said that she's going to make repetitive protests harder to basically ban them or put conditions on them, like it has to be gone by a certain time or whatever. And this is like a day after pro-Palestine protests. Yesterday there was about 400 people arrested for having T-shirts saying they support something. And then the other aspect of it is last Thursday there was a stabbing in Manchester at a synagogue in Heaton Park, and yeah, the person who done it was called, well, was from Syrian background. Um, yeah, so this is when it's coming in, but I'm wondering if she's got in mind the whole broad spectrum, and she sees this as getting the cover of making it seem as if it's just doing something about the left. But because I can see this affecting hotel protests for a start, where the people are unhappy that one of their hotels in their community has been released by the government to take in lots of young men who have come over in dinghies or whatever that way, and most of them will probably become British. Well, that's the usual. What usually happens. I think there's like a 4% rejection rate or something. I can't remember. Um, so these people protesting, they'll probably be affected by these laws. And also, in her speech a week ago, she at a Labour conference, she kept referring to. Well, she spent about 70-80%, maybe not that, quite a lot, big chunk of her speech about the United Kingdom demo, which was about 3 weeks ago, and which the police say between 100 and 150,000 attended. She said 150,000, so maybe she's deciding I'll go for the higher count that the police give. But others have said it was maybe 300,000, half a million. You know, Tommy says maybe 3 million. That might, I don't know how accurate that would be, but people are saying maybe half a million. I don't know why someone doesn't just commission. Apparently you can commission things to look at the footage, mainly from the air, and guesstimate. You know, there is companies that do that, I think. So yeah, these demos they aren't that often. I think it's about twice a year. See, I think they only started about year and a half ago or something, maybe 2 years. And there's been about four, I think, in London. And I think Labour, the left, and even the Tories are probably shocked at how many came this last one. I was as well. I knew it would be quite big, but it's because it's quite hard to actually find out when these things are happening. If you're finding out, then you're searching social media for it, I would say. You're not searching mainstream media because I don't think they'll even mention it. So I think it was a shock to the left and to the Tories. So, and I think that's why she spent so much of her speech talking about this, and she was talking it down. She's very good at using language because you have to think, it's implying something if you were at that demo or whatever. But she's saying not all people were like that, but some were. Not all people were chanting songs to do with the R word and that, but some were, all this sort of thing. So she's very good with language, but she obviously sees it in a certain way. Like, to those who attended, you shouldn't be attending these things. Um, Personally, I see it as a referendum to do with how the country's changed in 1948. We've never got a say. It's the biggest change ever. I mean, it's even bigger than Brexit or joining the EU, which we've had referendums on. The common market, as it was called back then. Um, in fact, we've hardly had any referendums. That's the only. We had one in the vote, changing the voting system, which I voted for, even though it was worse. It was the worst kind of PR, but I just voted for it anyway because I wanted to get away from the change of first past the post, which is very undemocratic. I want the Swiss electoral system where I can vote on issues. Last Sunday over there in Switzerland, they voted on digital ID, and I think it passed by about 50.9%. And also, it has to get the cantons as well. But it just goes to show, this digital ID that Keir Starmer's going to try and push through. He's got the votes for it, the MP votes, because our electoral system is very undemocratic. But he's not got I don't think he's got the mandate of the public, basically. So if you had a referendum on it, this would be your big chance to do go referendum style, you know. But anyway, as I'm talking about the marches, Unite the Kingdom and that, I'm talking about how I see it as a referendum on how the country's changed since 1948. And I also see reform as a referendum vote on this as well. So if you're worried about this, you should be wanting reform. It looks like it's going that way anyway. Even Scotland reform at the moment are around about 23%. They're in second place. SNP are on about 31%. SNP used to be on 45%, maybe even more, So, yeah. And it is ironic that she's maybe these pro-Palestine marches have just happened, and she's saying she's going to she sees it as a gap. And if she was saying it's a sort of we can't afford it, that sort of thing, I think that'd be a better argument, because when you look at it and you see how many police are there, I think the police service in Northern Ireland were even there in London yesterday, and they'll be on overtime and all the travelling costs. If you were to make that case, then I would say, oh yeah, well, okay, I can see it. But she was making it, I don't know what actual point she was making about it. Maybe she was making that, but she herself, I think, used to go on pro-Palestine or Palestine sympathetic marches, and she was even over in the Lesbos Islands, I think, 10 years ago, when all the Syrians, quote Syrians, were coming over. I'm not sure how many of them were actually Syrians, because I think people from many countries maybe think that. I remember seeing a thing at the time. There was a lot of people on a bus when they were in the Western countries, say Germany or whatever, and there was an Afghan lady, and she was saying, but I'm really annoyed at all the ones that aren't Afghan who have come along too, Anyway, we never find out the truth about these things, I think this is the thing that politicians are relying on. But now we've got social media, and it's getting sharper and sharper, the social media. So, and I think most people, this is where they're building their political knowledge, or whatever you want to call it, political decisions, from social media. So they can't control it anymore. It used to be top down. It was MPs, politicians, leader, MPs, and the media, the big media legacy that used to really frame the way you were supposed to think. But that doesn't work anymore, really, I don't think, because more and more areas are not using mainstream media at all, so they're not even getting their message out. But it is ironic, these two things, because I'm very sympathetic to Palestine, and also on the right, I think this is going to clamp down on Unite the Kingdom marches, etc., hotel protests, and that sort of thing, which I totally agree with as well. So for me, it's bad in both ways, but I don't know how badly they're going to do with it. Maybe they'll soften it up because of both sides are going to be against it. Once again, they seem to get this wrong, this Labour, especially under Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer was the head of the Crime Prosecution Service in England back in 2011, when there was those riots, which were to do with that young man being shot in his car, I think it was, when I think they were up to something illegal or something, and then Diane Abbott, well, I don't know if she was out, but lots of MPs were out about it. Or is that the same one? I can't remember actually, but anyway, it turned into riots. Anyone down in London, I think, not just, although London's changed a lot. And then they came up with these sort of fast laws, which I would regard as being like Putin or Stasi laws, where basically you get arrested straight away, you were put up in court within a day or two, and your lawyer told you to plead guilty because they were going to be really harsh if you didn't. And they just done that recently with the Rotherham riots and things of last year as well, where Keir got it totally wrong again. But I would call him Calamity Keir, really. I mean, it just goes to that 2011 thing, I think, was too harsh. They get very long sentences as well. It was far too harsh. And again, it was Keir Starmer who was in charge of it. And here he was last year in charge of the thing again, and I think he got too harsh. And for instance, in Rotherham, he described them as the bust-in far R. Whereas I watched the footage, and to me it just looked like families, local families, and I would guess they were traditional Labour voters, and many of them probably voted Labour at the election about 2 months before. I'm guessing now that area will be reformed, solid reform. So, you know, if anyone's got a council by-election coming up, it's a great chance to vote reform on a referendum issue or whatever you want. So, yeah, I'm just looking at this. So I don't know how this is going to end up. I think Shabana looks as if she's going to be really hard on illegals, because really Labour have no choice now, because with that Tory march plus the way they're losing all their seats to Reform now in the council by-elections, and Reform are lit 35% in the national polls now, whereas Labour are lit 21%, but they've been down, I've seen them down at 18%. And the Find Out Now polls, which I think are more accurate than the other ones, because I think they've got a different method that they do, because this is a new thing, what's happening with Reform. So, yeah. So I don't know what's going to happen with this, but it looks as if she's going to be hardline on illegal. I'm guessing they're probably going to come up with easier routes for seekers, quote, seekers, and also they won't really do too much about legals. So in the end, Britain's going to change probably just as quickly, if not quicker. It's just, at the moment, Keir Starmer said he was going to smash the gangs, and here we are a year later, we've now got mega dinghies that can take 125 in one dinghy, where you basically just sit on the side, basically, that's what you do. Britain can't stop them, we just haven't got the ability to stop them. And I hear today that the Tories are going to leave the European Court of Human Rights, which came about in 1953 when Europe was very different, and it's been a sort of open-ended thing where judges can change it continuously, so they can interpret it as they wish, really. It's very broad spectrum. Robert Jenrick done a good ex-post about it today, and he done threads on it, if you want to look that up. So that's all really I've got to say about that I can think of. I can see it from like I say, the standpoint of all the police, that it takes all the logistics, it holds places up. But Tommy said with his march, I'm sure he said that he wanted Hyde Park, but they wouldn't give him it. And I think they were shocked at how many people turned up, basically, and it's sort of flipped everything altogether. So well done to Tommy and that. As I say, I don't know how these people find out about the march. They must have been actively seeking it on social media. So I know that Tommy's tweets and things, YouTube stuff gets thousands of views every time. So, yeah, that's all I've got to say about that at the moment. We'll see. So, okay, yeah.